This is probably what breaks me the most.
Yeah.
I have to be honest with you. When you have like a good idea, you're just happy. I think everyone knows that feeling when there's like something popping up in your head and you're like, fuck yeah, that's what I want to do. My name's Renee and I'm 27 years old. I study art. I used to study business. I also got a degree, but I felt like what I was doing was not me. So I was doing art my whole life, but basically I kind of forgot about it. It was a hobby, more or less. But when I was studying business, I had to go to a semester abroad. And I went to Riga. It was a really good time, but I was also very lonely. And I felt like studying business is just not for me. I didn't see myself in this life. So I started to make art again, and then Corona came. I had a lot of time, and basically I just started painting because I had so much time that I felt like I have to do this for the rest of my life. Otherwise, I feel like I would be unhappy. And this is how I ended up here. I just used these 2 years after my studies during Corona to improve myself, to see if doing art is what I actually want to do. And I felt very content, very happy for the first time in my life. So I applied at several unis, and this is how I ended up here. Version of a very long story.
And where do you live right now? Or where do you study right now?
I study arts at the State Academy in Stuttgart, and I also live in Stuttgart. I'm from Nuremberg, but I'm very happy here. Well, as I said, we are in my atelier. And this is a painting I did a month ago for our big yearly exhibition. What I was trying to do here, I'm not going to explain. But yeah, this is my beautiful space. Thank you. For me, especially, I think it was very good because I studied economics. When you're studying art and you want to become an artist, you're basically preparing yourself for self-employment. And I think a lot of people forget that. And that's why I think it was very good. But I think it's difficult because there's a lot of people that study art that are like full-grown artists. And I think for them it's probably the best to just be an artist, but other people bring different perspectives if they studied something else, if they have a different background, because it enriches their story, enriches their art. I'm a very rational person, so I do have a vision beforehand. It just never ends up the way I want it. I want it to be, but that's just being an artist, I guess. But basically, I just walk around life and see things I, for whatever reason, enjoy. I don't know, it's basically a weird feeling inside of me that just makes me whip out my phone, take a picture, and then these ideas that I develop in this moment, they just like grow in my head for sometimes months. It just depends. And then I try to like lay out what I want to do, and then I make like a small underpainting, and then from then on I just let myself be carried by whatever I'm feeling during the process. But it depends, really. As I said, I'm being very diplomatic again in my answers, but sometimes when I'm being like more abstract, like behind me, I just have like a very small drawing and I start. But I'm trying to plan everything, but as it is in life, it's impossible. So I'm always surprised by myself. But it is what it is, you know, especially when you're working on bigger things, it just takes very long. And I think if you work on something for a long time, there's also always the possibility for new influences, for new opportunities. Maybe you fuck up at some point, but it opens another door. I'm not trying to be too strict. I used to believe that, and I still think it is like this, but now that I've studied art and I'm trying to be more professional, which is sometimes conflicting, I also realize that it's also important to know what you're doing, and just, you know, starting can be like a good option, but in the end you're trying to present the, I don't know, the onlooker, the gallerist or whatever, like a finished piece. This is probably what breaks me the most.
Yeah.
I have to be honest with you. It's just, you're planning something in your head and you really have this vision, and you're so, when you have like a good idea, you're just happy. I think everyone knows the feeling when there's like something popping up in your head and you're like, fuck yeah, that's what I want to do. But it's so hard to execute these things sometimes, and that's also why I started to study art, because I felt like if I'm studying art for real at an academy, I might learn how to transfer what I have in my head onto a canvas. But to be honest, it really that's the thing that really did me dirty the last 6 months. Because, well, the gap is, for me, is extreme. I'm a perfectionist. And as soon as I just, step off the path slightly, I feel like I'm failing completely. And it's just a mindset that I have in me that I can't get rid of. So there's either two ways: work on myself or work on my profession and my art. Either way, I'm gonna get there. But I can't tell you how I'm dealing with this, because it's basically what's keeping me up working. If there's just too much of a gap in between these two things, I think it's quite impossible. You have to work on yourself probably, because if you're realizing, like, on a technical basis, let's say for myself, I can't paint this. I just can't. My hand won't do what I want to do. Well, maybe I have to do something else. It's just how life sometimes is, because sometimes you want something so bad that you kind of lose focus, and in the end you're ending up somewhere else. So maybe sometimes readjusting the path or readjusting the process is maybe the better way to go. If I wouldn't do this, I would be either very stuck up or very empty. What I notice when I have an exhibition, I sometimes just sit there and people don't know that I'm the artist, and they look at the art and they're like, oh wow, that's great, that's amazing, I would love this in my living room or whatever. Then there's other people who just don't like it, and they also talk about it, but it just evokes some kind of emotion in them, and sometimes it just also sticks in their head. And I think it's the joy that I see sometimes in people's eyes, and then like the positive feedback I get, is not important for me, but it's more important to keep doing these things to bring more joy to the people, because sometimes I really don't know what I do. I really don't know what I'm doing at all. But I feel like when people see this and they're just happy about all these colors, and they're just happy about the whole, composition, or sometimes they don't even know why they like it, but that's just way more important to me. I think art is the only relic that stays throughout time, because if you look back in history, most of the things we can still look at is art. That's like the only thing that most of the time, or architecture, but it falls under art. So it's just what probably stays for the longest, and what just also the best way to show what people used to think during the time, how they were working, what was important, what was going on in that society. And I think for that reason, art will always be there, and it's always going to be way more important for all the people around the world, for all the cultures, for literally everyone involved in it. Uncertainty will never go away, because if you never try, you will never know if it would work or not. And sometimes I also think, even if you want something really bad, you should just do it, because if it doesn't work out, you still know you don't want to do it in the future. And for myself, that's a good mindset, because it also reminds you that every experience you have, everything you do is not worthless. Even if you felt miserable or didn't feel like it was successful in any way, you still gain experience. And I think that's the most important thing, because nothing is given to us. We have to work for nearly everything besides breathing and eating. We have to literally work for everything. So I feel like dive into it and you will feel better. My advice would be, it's a simple advice, but you need input for output. So if you're not working on whatever you want to work on, just exist, just do your things, because it will come to you. And what helps me, especially in art, is to just produce. Just do everything that comes to your mind, because I feel like that's where the creativity comes from. If you just keep on doing whatever you want to do, there will be gold in it. As I said, space, it just relates to everything, and space is a luxury, but I think that every person on this planet deserves space in whatever way. and I feel like, or more like, I'm happier when I feel like I have the space to do what I want, to do what I want when I want it, and I think this is the most, or like the happiest I can be in life.